face it that way. Good evening, everybody. My name is Wayne DeFeo. I'm the consultant that Nutley has retained to work on this project. It's been my pleasure to work here for approximately a year on this project to date. A lot of questions that you asked, I half stated. I could copy those questions down, and in every community that's converted to CART, they're the same exact questions, and that makes perfect sense because you're changing. And when communities change over a system, people don't like that because people don't like change. But communities have changed the CARTs nationally. Let's start with why look at CARTs. That's the first question everybody asks. Why change? There are several reasons. First, this is where the rest of the country is going, where many communities in New Jersey are going, for the same reasons that in every other industry, the hauling industry has the same problem. They can't get people. When you have to put 2 or 3 people on a truck to pick up garbage and you can't get them, your garbage doesn't get picked up on time. That's first. Secondly, this is one of the most dangerous industries to work in the country. This is a very, very high injury rate when you're working in this field. Think about it. You're picking up a bag, you're picking up cans, you're throwing them. On average, if you're doing your job correctly in a private sector company, most private sector companies can pick up 600 homes a day. Picture picking up 600 garbage cans a day in the winter. So what's happening? The mayor mentioned this earlier, and forgive my back to all the election officials, I can't figure out how to do all of it at the same time. You end up with workman's compensation claims. The average workman's compensation claim right now in the industry is $250,000 to $500,000. Someone said, well, why is that cost passed through to us? For the same reason every cost is passed through. You go to a supermarket, prices go up because you're paying labor, you pay for that. If in the industry a price goes up, they pass it through in their contracts. They're not going to eat the cost. That doesn't make sense. You'd be out of business. Most companies have, they have several levels of insurance. There's private insurance, and guess what happens when you put in a claim on your insurance? Your premium goes up. And the premiums in this industry have been rising faster than the rate of inflation for more than a decade. The simple fact is, there is no free lunch. You want a service, it gets paid for. What's happened? We know in New Jersey, prices have been rising. The mayor was actually being very generous. I've seen pricing rising. I study this all the time. The highest increase in the state, which was a city, in fairness, much larger than Nutley, went from $2 million a year to $9.9 million because they could not get labor. They're looking at carts because it's a way of reducing labor cost. In any community that has converted to carts that I've either worked with, read about, dealt with, visited in any way, for the first 6 months, and I've warned the staff here that as well, for the first 6 months, you will have a lot of calls, a lot of complaints, a lot of questions, a lot of I don't like it. And in every community where I have seen conversions to carts take place, after that period of time, and in one community now where it's year 6, if you told them you were taking their carts away, we'd have the same meeting. Why are you taking my cart away? Because now they like the carts. Because the carts are uniform in appearance. They're clean. The city of New York, you say, can it be done here in Nutley? The city of New York has just converted to carts. Mandatory conversion. You must use a cart. They are rolling out 3.7 million of them. Now, you are not more densely populated than the city of New York's 5 boroughs. The city of San Francisco uses carts. You aren't hillier and have more terraces than the city of San Francisco. Baltimore is converted to carts. City of Newark is converting to carts. You're not more densely populated than the city of Newark. Philadelphia is converting to carts. Many communities in New Jersey, especially south of us, have converted. We've been a little slower up north at doing that. Can we pull up that PowerPoint is that possible? Just because there's some pictures in there that might be helpful. Okay. Okay, so we'll go to the next, that next slide, if we can. It's a very short presentation, just to show you some pictures. Maybe we can't. Where's the convert? Oh, I don't know who did that. I didn't touch it. I didn't touch it. So one of the reasons that people are converting to cars. Now, this is just an image taken from a community. The fact is that what you have here is a uniform color. In this case, you have a different color, but you have a uniform structure. It's on the street, and it's very easy to see. Oh, I went the wrong way. Oh, I got it. There was a question of, and the blue circle is because this is one of my students at Rutgers' son, and I didn't want his face in the picture. I made him a deal. If I use the picture, we can't do that. He's 6 years old. That's a 96-gallon cart full of garbage, uphill. That's his chore. His father said his biggest thing that he has to do for him occasionally, you can see his height, he might have to tip it for him, but he still makes him take it up the hill. And he does his recycling cart as well. It's just an illustration. I recognize there are people who have less ability and there are people who have physical limitations. But this is just to show you, because there's this fear of this thing called a cart. Let's bear in mind two things. Right now, you put garbage at the curb. You're moving bags, which you shouldn't be in this town by ordinance, but that's not my problem. That's an ordinance issue. The other element of this is you don't have to fill the cart. You folks get 2 times per week collection. That's a luxury. Many communities have done away with 2 times per week collection. The most recent one I've worked with, not only did they do away with it, or they did keep 2 times a week, but they restricted the residents to a 64-gallon cart, and that's it. And that's all the residents allowed to use. You have 190 gallons of capacity a week under this system. That's 6 plus 32-gallon garbage bags. And these carts will hold more than 3 32-gallon bags when you jam them into it. If you need that, that would be around the holidays, as some of you have mentioned. That's an amazing amount of capacity in a week. Now, there will be those that say, well, I have 190 gallons a week. Well, that's fine. You have that capacity. If you need more, most communities will say, if you want more, then you have to pay for it. It'd be the same as my saying, you want to leave your lights on all the time? Should I pay for you leaving your lights on all the time? No, you have the right to. I'm not saying you can't, but someone else shouldn't be subsidizing that. You have a phone bill, you want service, you pay for it. Garbage is a utility, it's a service. And I will tell you in this town, and I've studied a lot of contracts around the state of New Jersey for over 30 years, and I can tell you, you get an extraordinary level of service for this type of collection. I don't know what they just did. You have a fact sheet. I know the town has put some stuff up on the internet, and I know some people aren't using the internet. Of course, I'm very upset. The Star Ledger will stop even being a paper next year, as you may have already heard. And you will have to go online for it. I like the Sunday. Or I'm not going to read Prince Valiant. You know, I mean, I can't get that online. But in this case, you have capacity. You are not being at all cut back in any way. You have 190 gallons. Any of you who are producing more than 190 gallons of garbage a week, I have to see what you're doing. That's just a lot of garbage. And I will tell you, those 2 carts combined, meaning 1 cart collected 2 times, you'll probably be able to get closer to 200 to 215 gallons of material in there. Now, the carts have a weight limit. Can only put up to 325 pounds in. I don't think you're doing that on average. I think that's probably unlikely. Even if you have a couple of babies at home and they're doing every diaper, you're probably not coming up with 300 pounds of garbage. This is a sample of the carts you're going to be getting. This is the largest cart, and the decision was consciously made to not restrict the residents by giving them something smaller, as in other communities. The carts are counterbalanced and are designed to be tipped. Will everybody need to do that? No. But now, all right, granted, I'm a little taller than the average person. That's a little bit easier, but you can see it's not a big thing to tip this. Even if this was loaded, it's not that bad. What's the advantage of this design? I don't make the cart, by the way. Just so everyone understands. I don't make carts. I don't sell carts. I have no interest in the cart company. This is one brand. They're heavy like this for a reason. They won't blow around in the wind. Now, let me say to you, if another Hurricane Sandy comes through Nutley, I don't care what you put at the curb. That's a whole different beast. We're not talking about a hurricane. But the average wind, last night the winds were 30 miles an hour in this town, as they were by most of North Jersey. This cart won't move. I'm on a hill. I have a concern. As I said, the first time we did this conversion for a town was in Pennsylvania in the Poconos. I can guarantee you their driveways and streets are much steeper than what you have in Nutley. And they do not have a problem. Once they're flat like this, they're not rolling. They don't move that way. It's not easy. Can it move? No such thing as absolute anything in this world. There are two things I know that are absolute. My taxes are going to go up someday, and I'm going to die. Those are the only two things I know for sure that I can predict with any accuracy. But there are several things this will do for you. The reason New York has just converted, and by the way, New York City's announcement, their carts are specially designed for various reasons. Not only are they mandated to be used, the residents have to pay for them directly. They don't get them as part of a general service. Your question earlier about cost and how do you pay for the carts? Yes, these carts were built into the bid spec, so they are part of the cost. But they're a one-time cost that way. These carts come with a 10-year warranty. I've had carts where we are for 20 years plus, and they still work fine. If they break, the company will replace them. I've seen this happen in Middletown. They had carts breaking fairly regularly, partly because the hauler was being a little rougher than they should be. Company kept replacing the carts. That's the warranty. So when you worry about cost, I mean, that's the thing I get scared about when I hear people say, oh, it cost $1 million or 1.3. You have to break that down. That's over 10 years. And I'll leave it to accountants to explain the amortization and depreciation costs later on. But that's a 10-year amortization. Then you divide it by the number of homes in town. It's a nominal cost per year, and you're getting something for the money. Not physically, you can't take it with you when you leave, but you're getting something that will be able to stay with your home. A question was asked about what do we do with the old ones? It's the same problem in every town that converts to carts. I bought a Rubbermaid, whatever. Roughneck, I think, is the one that was mentioned. You can keep it. That's up to you. Town will work to try to establish a recycling program for those carts. Interestingly, a lot of those things you bring to the DPW, I assume that's where to go, right, Commissioner? Yeah. Those garbage cans or carts that you may choose to get rid of, these carts actually contain a lot of recycled material from old ones. This is actually made equivalent to like a milk jug. Think of milk jugs. That's what's in here, that same plastic. So it contains recycled material as well. What's the real advantage here? This picture is the best illustration I can give you. When you look at this picture, this is what you're going to get. You're not going to have a truck, what they call one-armed bandits. In a more rural setting, you would have a truck with an arm on the side that would reach out with a robotic arm and do the tipping. You can't do that in Nutley. It's not feasible in this town. So we do what we call semi-automated. The cart's taken to the back of the truck, and then there's a thing called a tipper. But what this does is helps to avoid worker injuries. Whether you think someone else should pay for that if someone gets hurt or not, it's not fair to the workers to expose them to that high risk to be hurt. And if you want to tell someone who I've seen in this industry, I've seen people die, not personally, but I know people dying, of people losing legs, of people getting harmed and being permanently disabled because their back hurts. Nobody has a right to do that. This helps to reduce that considerably. And to take it further to the earliest comment the mayor made about companies doing this and the 50% increase versus the 30%, in New Jersey, not counting the extreme example I just cited, 130% last year, very common. 150%, very common cost increases. Anyone here have costs going down at home? Because if you are, please let me know how you're doing that. And I'd like to be able to do that too. All of our costs go up. That's the nature of just what happens. This helps to what we call contain that cost. It doesn't make it go down. It helps to control the increase. There's a big difference. It's like saying when you converted to the curly Q lights or to the LED lights, where you lower your water heater, you do put on a sweater and lower the thermostat. You're not necessarily seeing your bill go down, but it's what would it do if you didn't do those things. This is an easy way to make that happen. As to questions about uniqueness of a circumstance, I live on a terrace or I live here and I can't get it here or I'm physically unable to do it, that's something the town is going to have to work with. All towns have to adjust after starting this program. There's no such thing as a one size, pardon the pun, fits all when you go to a card program. There will have to be consideration. There's a staff here to take information. They will look at that. They will figure out how to make it work for each resident. In every single community where this is done, that has to be dealt with. What I tell every community that's converted is the same thing I will tell you. Give it a chance. Try it for a few months. If it doesn't work, the town can work. There are alternative things a town can do with carts. Normally, what happens after that 6 months is there are no more phone calls. People get used to the change. If you had kids, you know, they don't like change. We don't like change. Nobody likes it. We like what's comfortable. This is going to be cleaner and neater, and it will reduce rodents. It will reduce animal problems. And I'm not saying raccoons, because there's nothing in the world I know of that can stop a raccoon. They're way too smart for us. But it will reduce it. Rats in particular, especially in the business areas, where these will also be, that makes a huge difference. That's the reason, by the way, most cities are now moving to carts, to control the rodents. You have to control it. West Orange is doing this on a pilot basis now in their business community because they have, I forget the number, 150 rat complaints in a month, something like that. I mean, no one here likes to see a rat, I assume, right? They're not like real high on your list of animals you want to see rolling around. This will help reduce that. You won't get rodents or animals penetrating bags, which is why most towns require you to put garbage in a can anyway, is to prevent animals. The last point of this is going back to the vegetative. I don't quite know exactly what everyone's doing, but the same thing would apply. If you're using something other than the bags for leaves, I don't know that your ordinance even allows that. And do a lot of people have a lot of leaves? Yeah, that's this time of year. You know, that's what we call fall. But the bags are required. Most compost facilities where your leaves are currently going, require the leaves to be in bags. Many require them to be in bags today. They don't want them loose. The bags can compost. That's why they want them that way. The cart, the vegetative cart, is not so much for the leaves, unless you happen to have, maybe you have a small property, you don't have a lot of leaves, it would work for that. But if you have a lot, your program allows you to put them in bags. If you need 100 bags, you put it in 100 bags. Again, that is a service that is a luxury in communities. I don't want to say it that way. Where I live, they don't pick them up. They're my leaves. Deal with it. So I run over them with a lawnmower. And they got little tiny pieces of leaves, which are better for my grass anyway. Now, you may have too many. My brother used to live in Nutley. He said, I had too many leaves. I can't do that. He composted what he could, and he put the rest out in bags. That's what he'll continue to do. So effectively, what the carts do, Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
I'm gonna do when they empty it, where are they gonna put
They have to put it back at the curb.
it? In the
And I assume they're taking it from the curb.
street. Not in the street.
Right.
The garbage men don't put it back.
That's got nothing to do with carts, though. Fair enough. That's a contract issue, and that's something they have to enforce. I won't argue with that. The town. No, not me. I don't work for the garbage company. Okay, the town would have to enforce that as part of their contract. The contract says
Public Affairs and Health. So we have the town attorney here. We've executed a contract with the garbage company, and for any violations, we will be sending them violations, and then we can ultimately we can end up docking their pay every month.
I don't think it will do that.
The street.
So we need to know that. Anytime that occurs, let us know, and then we can reach out to the garbage contractor and make sure that they address that.
Every contract has and I know your attorney did this, every contract has a provision, just like when you hire someone to do work at your house, says you have to do A, B, C, D. If they don't do that, but if you don't tell them that they don't do, you don't tell the town that they don't do that, they can't be fixed. So yeah, it's a fair question. It happens everywhere. You're asking a question. It's not about, I can't answer how things work in your town. That's an operational question. I can't answer that. I don't have an answer for you. I'm not here to operate it.
So whenever we have an issue, if someone brings it to our attention, the Department of Public Affairs staff always reaches out to the garbage company and make sure it's addressed. But we have to know about the issue first.
Mayor, how do you want, obviously we had just addressed one question, but what format do you want me to use to address questions? To have them come up, or do you want me to?
Yeah, are you done with the presentation?
Yeah, I'm done unless someone has.
Yeah, yeah, I guess this is a good time for a question and answer. I guess just pass the mic and back and forth unless, do we have a second mic?
I will try. Oh, good.
Oh, we got a second mic.
Oh, thank you.
Do we put a number on the can, or do they put a number for us?
Okay, so every cart, that's a good question. One of the advantages of carts is carts allow the town to figure out if you've been picked up properly. So every cart will have a unique identifier built into it, an identification system that the truck can read, and it will say, and this goes to help you as well, cart at, I don't know, 15 Center Street, just for argument's sake, was picked up at 9 a.m. So I'm just picking numbers out of the air here. Go with me. And what that does is it helps the town to track, did the hauler actually do their job? Now, that puts a little bit on you too, though. Because if it says in your ordinance you have to put your cart out by 7 a.m., and again, I'm just picking numbers. What is your time? 6 p.m. the night before? And by 5 a.m. So let's presume you decide for whatever reason to sleep in. You've had a big party the night before. You're going to sleep till 9 on garbage day. You put the cart out at 9:30 and you call. Now nobody in any town would ever do this, that someone might call and say, I put it out at 5 a.m. when they did put it out at 9 a.m. I know that would never happen. Right? In this case, the cart's going to basically tattle on you because the truck's going to know I was there at 6. There was no cart. So every cart's assigned a unique identifier. Your name won't be on it. There'll be no way of anyone to know it's your cart. All it goes is to an address, not you, but to an address. So these will be hot stamped, what they call hot stamped. It'll have logos. It'll have instructions of what can go in it, all built into the plastic. I'm sorry? No, it cannot spy on you. No, it's an RFID connected thing. RFID is a very limited range of about 2 feet.
Technical question.
Go ahead.
Following up specifically on the RFID tracking.
Yeah.
And it's tagged to an address.
Yes.
What sort of data will it be tracking in addition to compliance with the carting company? Will you be?
That's it. That's all it tracks when it's picked up.
So it will not be tracking when you put it out, as long as it's timely, and will it be tracking the amount of weight that
No.
you put in.
These are not weighed. The RFID is not capable of doing that. This is only designed to make sure for two things. One, it helps us to track the town, rather, to track the hauler, to make sure they pick the thing up. Because how many times do you get into the argument, I say I picked it up, you say I didn't pick it up. This puts that to bed, so to speak. That's all it does. It doesn't care what's in it. It doesn't care what time you put it out. It's only going to say the truck stopped here I'm picking a number at 7 a.m. And there was a cart there that I could read, and it left. The other thing it does help to do is, should the cart wander, it helps to get it back to its owner, so to speak, and which can happen.
The second question, I don't know if this is for you or if this is
Please talk into the microphone.
or if this is for the commissioners, but because each cart is assigned to a specific address, what happens if the front of the residence has a specific address, but the driveway or where you're going to be putting the cart out is on another street? Flagpole properties, properties where the driveway is just on another street. I live in a neighborhood where there are 4 properties that the driveway is on a totally separate street. And looking at the IPL video, they said that neighborhoods will be zone mapped. And how will we guarantee that we'll be able to put the carts where we need to put them rather than in a different zone?
That's a really good question. And that comes down to the distribution of the carts where I can take out your entire audio-visual system. That comes down to you coordinating with the staff so they know in advance where the cart has to be, because the carts, when we say carts are assigned to an address, that's true, but they actually are what we call designed to be based on map coordinates. You know, when you use a map system and there's what they call the GIS system, it's latitude, longitude. So it doesn't really matter what the street address is. What matters is the latitude line. And if you say your driveway's over there, to give you your example, and your house is over there, so long as the town knows that, they'll tell the distributors of the cart, that's the location. Again, will it work perfectly on day one? I'm not going to tell you that it will, because I don't know of anything that does. But that's the kind of information you need to tell the town. So I don't think that's going to be a problem.
Just some follow up on that. As we mentioned, the carts will be serialized. You can tell by your serial number. It's a unique serial number to you, to your residence. You can't permanently deface the cart, so don't spray paint numbers on it. But if you want to put a decal, 15 Center Street, using the example, you could put a decal on that so that as long as the decal can be removed. And don't do anything to the cart, such as drilling holes into it, because that could void the warranty. We want to make sure that the cart, if it gets damaged, is damaged and the warranty is able to replace it.
A good point. I'm sorry, this gentleman.
That was my question. Can you put your number on it like we do with our garbage cans now? So in case they get lost or get misplaced?
So long as you don't cover the tag that's got the number on it that the machine has to read, and the mayor just said it would be fine, so long as you could remove it.
Yeah, as long as it's not a permanent alteration to the cart.
Yeah. And by the way, I do that at home too. I have carts, and we do the same thing. We just put the number on the side just in case.
Oh, no, that's okay. So I have a few questions, but I just wanted to check. I didn't take a note, but the cost of the carts, did you say it's 1.2 million, Mayor Kelly?
1.2, 1.3, somewhere in
But
that.
then you were talking, oh, wait, there's another microphone if you need it. You were talking about a 10-year amortization. So is that 1.2 million per year? Because I'm shocked that we can do carts for the entire town for just 1.2 million. That's like an amazing number.
I can answer that one first. Okay, first question, that's the total cost.
Okay, so thank you for that. You're not going to like this, but in this whole idea, was there the thought that if we went to one pickup a week, again, you're not going to like this, but businesses, households that wanted a second pickup, was that evaluated in terms of overall cost? And I'm asking this in terms of pro forma, because we all know the United States, especially the Northeast, is running out of space for garbage. There's just nowhere, nobody wants our garbage. We have entire towns built on garbage. And we don't have a compost program. We have a vegetative waste or a yard waste program here, but we don't have a household, vegetable fruit compost program. I'm curious, was that considered? And I don't know if this is all to you or to
Well,
Mayor
I
Kelly's
can answer it
office.
for you.
Okay, so then I do have those questions. I have a couple more too. Thanks.
So let's go to let's see. The second question was the alternative to go to 1 time per week considered by the township, and it was, but the numbers did not come back in such a way to make it cost effective to do that. It would have ended up costing you more money in some respects
Is
because
that based on weight?
because of the way the bids came in. Okay, now that I would, and by the way, I would not have expected that, but that's what, and you got to go by what the bid says. So it was considered. Your next question was?
Oh, compost, like
Oh.
household compost.
So household composting in New Jersey is very tricky. We do have a law in the state of New Jersey that requires that commercial businesses that generate more than 1 ton per week must go to a compost facility or some facility to recycle the food, but there are a lot of exceptions. And here's the biggest one. There has to be a facility, and we don't have many. Residentially, around the state, most programs that have where people have tried to do curbside food waste where they can collect it and compost it have shut down because of 2 reasons. 1, it's very expensive on a per pound basis. And 2, residents tend to contaminate the food with so much stuff that can't be composted, it can't be accepted. So until people can do it correctly, it doesn't work. Taking it just to answer your question completely, you could today retain a private service on your own. There are a couple of them in this area where they will do that for you, or you could obviously do your vegetative waste.
I have my own compost bins, right? Okay. So the other thing, thank you for that. When you said about yard waste and the brown bags, and I mean, the town has actually distributed bins for yard waste. I have never picked them up. I just have my own bins. But so what you're saying concerns me. You're saying, these compost facilities won't even take vegetative waste if it's not brown bagged. So I understand it's a different department. That's Mayor Scarpelli's department. But, some of the things you're saying aren't jiving with what's been happening here. So you're just causing more questions.
So let me answer your question on that. The reason that most facilities that are taking leaves today prefer that they be bagged, or it could be in a cart too. But as this gentleman said earlier, think how many carts he would need if he was going to put every leaf out in carts.
Bags.
Most of them want them in a container for one reason. When they're loose on the street, which some towns still collect, they become contaminated with a chemical. I won't get into what that is, but that chemical contamination makes the compost impossible to do anything with.
Okay.
When they're in bags or containers, they don't pick up as much of the chemical and it meets the state standard. So that's why that happens that way.
Okay. So my next question is, we're covering garbage, we're covering yard waste. So what's happening in terms of recycling? I don't know if I should address this to Mayor Scarpelli. Okay. And are you having to evaluate that? Because I know the tipping fees we don't really make money like we used to on recycling. I mean, I remember that from looking at the budget. So I'm just curious, is that being addressed or will it be addressed as another potential cost savings measure?
I'm not sure.
Okay. Okay, great. Yeah, just
And
wondering.
let me add to that Nutley has, in my experience, and this is a credit to all of you, because I talk to the markets that take your material, you have some of the cleanest paper in the state. Your paper often, when it goes to the recycling facility, gets baled and sent right to a paper mill, which is very unusual to have paper that clean. So your residents, you and your fellow residents in this town do a really good job about recycling and making it clean the way it should be. So kudos to Nutley.
Great. I mean, I think it's very clear about recycling. We get a notice, a bulletin, and it's easy to follow. So thank you. And my last question is, and thank you, I understand you're a hired consultant. So how long is your contract with Nutley?
It's my contract essentially is up when this thing starts.
Okay. Thank you for your service.
Oh, let me, thank you very much.
Does this eliminate one man on the garbage truck? So you'll be down to two. Is that correct?
Generally, that's what happens. And
So
even
it's
if
a
they
cost
keep-
saver.
It does save money. And in fact, if they do want to still have two, because sometimes they can, on your smaller side streets, they can service both sides very quickly. Generally, might do that. For bulk, they will do that. For bulk, you still need two people on the truck, and bulk was something that is different. You will see, and it's in the fact sheet, I believe, that the township prepared for you. You will now be able to do bulk, but you must make a reservation to do so. And the reason for that, and this has been done, I give you one example. In one of the communities I worked with, they did what Nutley did. Every week, truck went around looking for bulk waste. That means they're driving all over the town looking for stuff. The town went to a reservation system. There are 73, for that particular town, there are 7,300 homes in the town. They've been doing this now for about a year and a half. On average, on a given week, they pick up 59 to 60 homes. Most people do not put bulk out every week. Some do, and in many communities, what they found is those folks are abusing the bulk collection system by using it as their personal little side business. But in the reality of this is that does two things. The reservation system reduces truck miles in your town. So it's quieter, it's cleaner, and it's a heck of a lot more efficient. And it also is a cost savings because now the hauler is calculating based on what they know they're going to pick up, not just guessing. And the mechanics of that system are worked out and being worked out with your town. Let's get my exercise.
Can you describe more about the content of the actual item, like how much recycled plastic is in there and things like that?
Sure. It does depend on the company, and it depends on what if there are specifications that say more. On average, 15 to 20%, let's say 10 to 20% of that cart is post-consumer plastic. Not 100%, clearly, for several reasons. One, the cart has to meet certain strength requirements, and when you recycle plastic, it tends to get weaker. So they can only put so much in, but it's something. At the end of their life, these will often go back to the companies. They get reground and thrown into the new cars. So it can be a closed loop system. I'm not saying it's perfect because, again, no such thing as perfect. But it's better than throwing it away all the time.
No, it's okay. My question is, at Christmas, if
Okay, it's on.
can you get another one at Christmas? Like, how much would it be to buy it? Not
I don't
buy,
know.
get, rent, whatever.
I don't know. I don't know. I mean, I can't tell you what the town's going to do.
We're still sharpening our pencils. We're trying to make it as limited in cost as possible for the residents.
If you've ever ridden around this town, like the day after Christmas or a big holiday, it's 4 and 5 cans out front.
Well, again, let me point out to you
I
that
know
4 or
that's
5
big,
cans,
but
that you can, the equivalent of 5 small garbage cans in plastic bags will get in that cart. And the worst case scenario is you'd wait 2 days. You get twice a week collection. I mean, it's not like you're holding on to the stuff for a month.
so it's beneficial to keep your regular garbage cans because if you need,
That's
if you have a big party, or all those boxes and stuff.
well, the boxes, hopefully you're recycling.
I am recycling everything, please.
I mean, I hope so.
I do.
But that comes down to answer your questions, the same thing. I mean, this comes down to, the woman before was asking a question. This lady was asking us a question earlier. What are we doing about, because people live near garbage and there's so much garbage we're making, And I'm not telling you how to have a party, okay?
No, no,
I'm just
no.
saying that we make a
Practically-
decision to make the garbage,
Yeah.
you know?
No, yeah, I
So-
get it. I just wanted,
Yeah.
be
But you're talking
prepared.
2 days. I mean, I grew up in, don't hold it against me, but I grew up in Belleville. And we had Christmas time, we, like everybody else,
Yeah,
generate a
you've
lot of
seen
garbage.
it with
So we had to wait for the second garbage
What
collection.
the town looks like. Oh,
Yeah.
well, we never
We
did.
didn't put it outside. We held on to it till we could put it out.
We never did in Nutley.
Yeah, it's a matter of personal preference. If you want to spend the extra money for a second cart, you can go ahead and do that. If you want to keep it for 2 days in your old cans or carts, that's fine as well.
Can I answer it?
But they will pick up 2 cans.
Your schedule of 2 pickups a week has not changed.
No. If I had 2 cans,
Yeah, so
Yeah, if
if
it's
you,
in the cart, they'll pick it up.
they'll
yeah,
But
so if
then,
you,
but then that can stays with that house. I couldn't just borrow it for a week.
No. I don't think that would, can you imagine? You talk about the logistics of trying to get this thing to work now. Now you want to have a rental program? I mean, it's a nice idea, but I don't know if I'd go for it. Other question? All I've got. Can you, excuse me, I'm sorry. Can you stand over there?
So you mentioned the cans are amortized over 10 years. How long's the contract for the hauler?
You have a 5-year contract.
So in 5 years, are those cans universal if it goes up to? a
So in
competitive
5
bid?
years, the carts are yours. You've effectively paid for them over the first 5 years,
Mhm.
and then you own them and you get the warranty as well carried for the next 5 years. The warranty transfers to you. Right now, the warranty would be with the hauler because for the first 5 years, they own them technically. Then it transfers to the township.
But we're paying for it over 10 years as we said, right?
Effectively, you amortize them over 10. You're
So
paying
you're
for them over
potentially-
5, but you amortize over 10, and I'm not going to get into accounting.
But you're
because I have
potentially
a
buying,
hell of a lot more than I do about it.
so I appreciate that. But so we're potentially, if we find a different hauler, buying new cans in 5 years?
No,
Okay.
no. And
No
this
matter, these
actually,
are universal. That's what I'm asking.
yeah, they are universal. The tippers are universal. The carts are all designed with, to an ANSI standard.
Thank you.
And it has to be, it's a very specific standard. Even the specification in your bid had a very specific nationally recognized standard. I personally don't know of anyone that makes a cart, any company that I know of
Mhm.
that doesn't make to that standard. I'm sorry, it's the ASTM standard. Doesn't make to that standard because they'd never sell a cart.
Understood.
So you get the carts, you own the carts, and you raise a very good point without raising it. One of the reasons you convert the carts is because what we now know is companies like Waste Management, largest in the country, will not bid a contract without carts in New Jersey. Republic will not bid contracts without carts. They will not do manual collection. That's one of the reasons one of the large cities saw its price go up so high, because the contractor said, my contract's up on date certain. You won't go to carts. We're walking away. We're not bidding again. They don't want the injuries. So going forward in 5 years,
Mhm.
for you to have the opportunity for more haulers, you're going to need carts anyway.
And in your expert recommendation this day and age, is there any municipality where you're not recommending carts?
I have not worked with a municipality in the last 20 years where I have not recommended carts. That does not mean every municipality has listened to me, but I have not worked in a situation where I will not recommend a cart. There's not one town, one location in this state from the most urban down where I think carts could not work. I've seen them work in urban settings. Does that answer your question? So I can't hear. I'm sorry. That's all. I do. I believe no. Why am I supposed to be told?
Okay. You literally own the cart after you pay for it, right?
You don't own it. The town does.
Did I misunderstand?
No, the town owns the carts. When you get the carts, at the end of 5 years, they become the property of the town. They are assigned to that address where you live. You don't personally own them. The town owns them. I don't know if we have any other questions.
Does anyone have any other questions for Mr. DeFeo? Does anyone have any questions for any of the Board of Commissioners?
Thank you.
So seeing none, I guess we'll let Mr. DeFeo go. We will be having another information session after the carts are delivered on December 12th, same time, 7 o'clock. If you think of more questions between now and then, feel free to reach out to me or anyone at the Department of Public Health. We're happy to answer your questions, or you could save it till December 12th, and Wayne will be happy to answer them then as well. You guys are welcome to stay for the rest of the Board of